Are you the quantum mechanics?
Yes, we are the quantum mechanics.
Also known as the justified ancients of woo-woo.
If you're interested in the paranormal and the high strangeness, we're the podcast for you.
Whether you're a believer, a doubter, or somewhere in between.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Peter.
And we are the Quantum Mechanics.
We are the Quantum Mechanics. And we've got a new Patreon to talk about this week. We really want to thank Joe for joining us as a Patreon. They will be getting their main episodes usually a week early. They'll be getting access to our exclusive episode, Ben and Peter's Extra Scoop. Lots of posts that we do on Patreon. Nice little community that chat about the episodes as well. Access to the Discord server. But most importantly, they're helping us and supporting us keep the podcast on the road. I was trying to find an alternative to it's the price of a coffee a month.
Yes.
Because obviously with the two of us, it's not buying us a coffee, isn't it? Really. It's basically the price of buying me and Ben half a cup of coffee each.
Or
a month.
The other way of looking at it is a Klarna payment towards a Colonel's 4-piece chicken meal.
Yeah, okay. That's another way of looking at it, definitely. Okay, all right, yeah. Well, you'd lose that down the back of the sofa. Not the meal, the money, obviously. But yes, if you want to come support us, come to patreon.com/TQM pod, or depending on where you get your pods, it might be in the show notes. You can just click there. Come on, jump in. The water's lovely.
It is. It's even getting lovelier.
Yeah, it's going to...
That's not even proper English. It's getting nicer.
Heat wave's coming.
The heat wave, well, it's nearly here. I've, again, overdressed, but then I did have the car air conditioning set on. That set it LO, which means that you can eat an ice cream in there and you have no fear of it.
It's hello, Lordy, it's hot.
It was very, very warm when I opened the car door. Oh. I always feel for those people who like, I mean, we're British, so we're not really used to this sort of weather, but there'll be people who live in hot countries where they're like, well, you obviously open the car door before you get in and leave it a moment because of all the hot air. I'm just not used to that. I just get straight in and go, oh, gosh.
There's a button on my car that if you hold it, it opens all the windows and sunroofs.
Yeah.
Sunroofs? I've only got one. I haven't got multiple sunroofs.
Don't need to boast.
What have we got today, Ben? What heated story have you got for us?
I think we've been quite alien heavy recently, and we've done some ghosts, so I thought it was time for a good monster story because
good old monster story.
This is the time of year where we start moving into silly season in the UK, at least anyway. So the reports in the newspaper already, I saw one last week, another sighting of some kind of mysterious alien big cat, alien not meaning from the sky, but like a panther or something. And I think I told you that we had mistaken sightings in the village that I used to live in.
Yeah.
But I wanted to dive into, so America has got better stories than us.
They got always the best of everything, including cryptids.
This is a good one. I do want to issue a canine warning. I will be gentle about it, but not all dogs make it out of this one, unfortunately. Right, okay. But I'm going to take you back to July the 11th in 1972, Louisiana, Missouri. It's Tuesday afternoon. It's high summer in the Midwest, very fitting.
Yeah, very fitting.
Humid, heavy heat, quite oppressive. We can probably all imagine that. Louisiana is a small town sitting on the west bank of the Mississippi, not to be mistaken for the state of Louisiana. Mm-hmm. Halfway between Arkansas and Iowa. It's the sort of place where the geography dictates everything. The river is kind of like a major highway, and it constitutes the border as well. And rising up directly behind a lot of the houses, pressing in against the backyards, is the town. The backyards of the town is the woods, steep, tangled, ancient woods.
Right.
And in the backyard of a house on Allen Street, an 8-year-old boy named Terry Harrison is playing. His older sister, 15-year-old Doris, is very nearby. Their yard backs right up onto the base of one of these steep wooded inclines. It's known as Marzolf Hill. It's about 3:30 in the afternoon. It's broad daylight. Nothing extraordinary is happening. And then it's a scream, and it's Doris. She doesn't just call out. This is like, oh dear, something really bad is happening. It's one of those your ears go up screams. And she grabs her brother. Now, he doesn't really know what's going on. He's just basically dragged back into the house. But Edgar Harrison, the father, he overhears what's happening and comes running down. She tells him that something was standing on the edge of the woods, right on the boundary of the yard and the trees. She says it was tall, taller than a man, covered head to foot in their very dark black hair. She said it had a head shaped like a pumpkin resting on its shoulders, no neck, had no face, or at least no face that she could see, just this hair falling like a curtain where the face should be. A bit like Peter Andre in 1993.
Apart from not the 6 foot thing.
And unfortunately, tucked under its arm was a dog that wasn't in the best of health, as you can imagine.
Not like a kind of YouTube influencer carrying it. It was more sinister than that. Wasn't doing it for clicks.
Wasn't doing it for clicks, sadly. So Edgar, he's a protective father, but as you can imagine, he's used to kids. Kids make up stories. Kids see things that they misinterpret, but he can't ignore it. So he obviously goes outside to look. Anybody would. He goes out to the back door, crosses the grass, and stops at the property line where this hill begins the ascent up into the trees. He doesn't see the creature. Everything is quiet. But what he did find at the edge of the trees, he found disturbing.
It wasn't scat, was it?
If only it had been scat.
Oh, no. Okay.
The brush had been heavily trampled down and branches were broken. Something large had recently pushed its way through this undergrowth, exactly where Doris said it had been standing. And there was this smell, a distinct, powerful, deeply unpleasant smell. And I think this is really interesting because we hear this with Bigfoot cases as well. Stink apes, yeah. He described it as a mouldy horse. I don't know if I've ever smelt a mouldy horse. Or garbage, rubbish.
Right.
But just not the smell of the woods. There was something kind of alive and biological about it, like rotting, basically.
Didn't Mouldy Horse win the Grand National in 2001?
It was also a track by Morrissey.
It probably was.
My Mouldy Horse.
Mosey Horse. Sorry, I went into Bowie again. Mosey Horse.
He covered it, I think.
Yeah.
So he does what, like, you're stuck, right? And so he's thinking, I believe her, I've seen something, he's going to call the police.
I've smelt something. How did that call go down?
Well, he gets through to Chief Shelby Ward.
Oh, what a
good
great...
name,
that is straight out of Central Casting, that is.
He is described as a practical man. He dealt with traffic violations, petty theft, and the occasional domestic dispute.
If you tell me it was his last day on the job.
He had 24
This
hours.
is my last case, all right? I'm retiring.
He eyes him up, takes the gun back out of the drawer.
Oh, yeah.
A monster, you say? Well, he obviously, if this was if this was just a stranger coming in, he might think twice. But he knows the Harrisons; they're respectable,
Right?
And he knows that they're not up for inventing tales to
They
get
would
attention.
just make it up, yeah.
No, Edgar manages a restaurant in town, you see, and so a lot of the locals know who he is, including the entire police force who dine in there. So Chief Ward dispatches 2 officers to the house. Once the officers arrived, they speak to Doris. She's still upset. They go into the backyard with Edgar. They find this trampled bush. They noted the broken branches, and they also smell this rotting odour in the air. Okay. Yeah. But of course, there is no monster. But they take down the details, log it as a disturbance, and leave.
I'm going to do the J. Allen Hynek now. It's just swamp gas.
Well, they think it's a bear.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
Or it could be a teenager playing an elaborate, cruel prank.
Yeah.
If it had ended there, though, it would have just been a weird story that the Harrisons told.
Yeah. Do we know what the dog was? What size the dog was this thing was carrying?
It was sizable.
Yeah, it was a big dog. It wasn't like a chihuahua.
No, it's only described as sizable. Okay. No, it's not like
in a handbag.
A Mean Girls monster. No. It's it's being carried because it's being eaten. I think basically
that's the implication.
Yeah. This is just the beginning of the adventure that Edgar's going to have with this thing. Because later that same afternoon, after the police have gone, he's sitting outside again in his house, trying to make sense of what's just happened. And then he hears this coming from deep within the trees on Marzolf Hill. It's a low rumble. Again, we've heard this sometimes from these David Paulides type cases where it sounds like it's almost like machinery. It doesn't sound particularly biological.
Yeah.
And this is what he's getting here.
That has been associated with Bigfoot cases as well.
It has,
that weird sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't quite as weird as some of those cases, but I was reading one the other day where they were talking about, so somebody had gone missing, and the people who were witness to their friend going missing, I say witness that they were there, and then they were the people that raised the alarm when the person went missing. They described this noise that sounded like a car door shutting, but coming deep in the woods, so it couldn't have been a car door.
Right. This
is really interesting because this particular case here on Marzolf Hill, what we're getting is this vibration that Edgar says, it has this kind of metallic essence to it, but he can feel it in his chest. But it turns into something that sounds like a roar. Now, this makes him stand up and spin round, but he can't identify the source of this thing. He's looking all around the tree line, looking into the woods, can't see anything. Later on to reporters, he would say, look, it doesn't sound like a bear. I know what bears sound like. It doesn't sound like a wildcat either. Both of these things that he would normally hear. He said it felt like primevally angry, and it sounded like it was racing down the hill towards the house, but he didn't hear any crashing through the woods. He didn't hear a movement of an animal or indeed anything through that. It was just this particular noise. Funny thing is, the family heard it too. They were inside, but they came running out of the back door, quite terrified. They decide to get into the family car. They think it's just, look, there's been too much for today. They plead with him to get in and drive anywhere but there. They're just thinking, let's just get out of here.
Right.
Now, Edgar hesitates. He wanted to stay. He wanted to see what was making that sound. He also wanted to protect his property. He didn't want something rampaging through there. There are some farm animals on his property as well. He doesn't want those being, killed and eaten.
Well, even if it wasn't anything kind of paranormal, bears break in, don't they? I've seen lots of footage of that. They'll break into your house, will they not? If they can get in, they
will. But they have bear-proofed everything. What is surprising him is that what he has seen on the wood line there and the side of his property is something that he wouldn't expect. Bears would not normally make that kind of a mess where he was, for no good reason either. Anyway, his family plead with Edgar to get in, so he starts the engine and drives. The look of sheer panic on his wife and children, he said, when he looked, as he's moving and looks in the mirror and looks to the side, he said it's really palpable, and it made him think that he's just not imagining this. It really put him into a different state of mind. He felt like there was something that wasn't right here, and it was registering with everybody.
Right.
But the weird thing as well is that as he starts driving, he realizes that the whole street is just like, there's people wandering around, and it hasn't affected anybody else. There's some reason why they are so scared, and he's kind of thinking that it's a real juxtaposition that everybody else is kind of, really cool with it. Over 40 of his neighbours are out in their houses. They are standing in the road looking up at Marzolf Hill.
So they're experiencing something.
They can hear it, but they're not as terrified as he is. They're almost approaching this with a curiosity, which he finds curious.
Yeah.
But some of the men, nevertheless, are carrying rifles and shotguns. But they're talking to each other as if like this is maybe a hunting expedition.
Yeah.
So Edgar stops the car to speak to them because he's thinking, okay, maybe I'm just overreacting. Before he could open his door, his wife screams from the passenger seat that she can see this thing. The crowd in the street around where he'd stopped the car begin to panic. People scatter, and Edgar does anything he can do. He hits the accelerator and drives. The Harrisons did not sleep in their house on Allen Street that night. They couldn't face the woods. Whatever it was that they had just seen again that had sent people scattering and drove them into the centre of town, they decided to stay there. They slept on the floor of the restaurant that they owned and locked the doors and waited for morning.
I don't want to stop your, probably alien movie reveal, but does she? You said she saw it. Are you going to describe what she saw? Or?
No. This is the thing: is all she knows is that she can see people scattering.
Right.
She doesn't actually sight this. She can't actually see the thing. She just knows that this thing is coming towards her.
Feels this thing
is coming there and sees the panic. Yeah.
Got it. They're sleeping on the floor of the restaurant.
They're on the floor of the restaurant. As they open the restaurant, they realise that the whole of the town is talking about it. They learn that day the police switchboard lit up after they'd driven to the restaurant, and the stories were pouring in. A woman named Mrs. Clarence Lee. Clarence is not a normal name, is it? Anyway, she lived a block and a half away from the Harrisons. She reported hearing what she described as, inverted commas, a terrible animal sound the same afternoon that the Harrison kids saw the creature. Another resident, Pat Howard, reported seeing a dark man-like figure walking quickly across a road near the hill about 5 a.m. And 2 teenage boys hiking on the hill came face to face with something that they described as a huge black long-haired thing.
Right.
It growled at them and they ran. But the account that really made the town sit up and take notice comes from a man called Ellis Minor. Now, he's 63 years old. A local newspaper reporter described him as grizzled, toothless, and a fisherman.
Certainly not a miner.
No, that's just he said. No, he's a fisherman. But grizzled and toothless is not the kindest account.
No.
But he had lived along the banks of the Mississippi since he was 6 years old. He knew the woods, and he obviously knew the river because he's a fisherman. And he said, if there was a bear, I'd know it. If it was a wild cat, I'd know it. But on the night of July 21st, about 10 days after the Harrison sighting, Minor said he was sitting outside his house on River Road. It was about 10:30. Dark, quiet, nothing weird. Suddenly, his dog bird, so that is no, it's not a half. No, I had to look this up.
Okay.
It's a retriever, basically.
Okay.
He said rarely growled at anything, did begin to growl. And one of those growls where dogs do that low, threatened sound, staring intently up the dirt road. So Minor grabs his flashlight, flips it on, and shines the beam in the direction the dog was looking. Standing there in the middle of the road about 20 feet away was this creature. Minor told police it was at least 6 feet tall. It was covered entirely in hair that was black as coal. He couldn't see its eyes or face because the hair hung nearly to its chest. A la Peter Andre again, the curtains. And it was completely upright on 2 legs. The moment the flashlight beam hit it, the creature whirled around, ran across the adjacent railroad tracks and vanished into the dark woods.
I've kind of got this vision of a kind of tall male version of that entity in The Ring with the kind of hair down his face. I've got that kind of image going on. So humanoid, whatever this is.
Yeah, kind of like a shaggy Bigfoot, really.
Yeah. But by the descriptions, because you kind of sit there and think, oh, this is a Bigfoot sighting. But they're not describing this as an ape. They're describing it more as a human, are they?
Not one person has described it as an ape so far.
Yeah.
No. I think the reason why they're struggling to describe it is because of the collection of noises around it and the fact that it appears to be it's so otherworldly because it's just this black hairy thing, and it stinks. That's another thing to it. So I think perhaps if it had been described as an ape, it would have maybe taken away from some of the scary impact just seeing this thing has had. When asked by reporters what he would have done if that thing had walked towards him instead of running away, Minor was completely honest. He said, I don't know which would have run faster. He said, me or the dog.
Right.
The police vouched for Minor. Officer John Whitaker told the press, I've known Ellis Minor all my life and I've never known him to make anything up. There must be something in these hills.
Wow.
When the fisherman who knows the woods better than anyone else tells you there's a monster, you listen, says John Whitaker.
Well, who's basically lived in that environment and on the river and interacts with that environment for 60 years, basically.
Yeah.
Wow.
But this incident with Minor, it sets off a chain of events that is not going. It's not going to end well.
Okay.
You see, fear does strange things to a community, and it allows them to create a shared narrative.
Right.
And when you mix fear and adrenaline and shotguns, it does something entirely different.
Are we going into some mass hysteria?
Yeah. Within days of the Harrison sighting and Ellis Minor's encounter, the story jumped from local gossip to the newspapers. Right. First, the Louisiana Press Journal covered it, then the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, then the National Wire Services picked it up. The papers tried out a few names. The Mystery Beast, there's one. Yeah. The Hairy Biped.
That sounds like a Radio 1 DJ from the 80s. Oh, it's the hairy biped.
My particular favourite, The Thing.
Jeez, can we have a bit more creativity?
Well, they eventually settled for Momo, short for Missouri Monster.
Momo's better.
Momo's all right, isn't it?
The monstrous Momo, you can do a lot with that, I think.
Yeah. Well, again, it sounds like a radio DJ from the 80s.
Yeah.
Coming next, the monstrous Momo with all the hits. But with the headlines came the hunters. So almost overnight, the town was flooded. Carloads of amateur monster hunters.
God, this is almost like the. I know it's on the land in the forest, but the structure of this is a little bit like Jaws.
Yes, it really is.
Even that character, Minor, kind of reminds me of the grumpy guy in the boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, and the sheriff, and wow. Okay, carry on. So,
there's an impact on the original family as well, because the hotels are filled up and the restaurants are packed.
Oh,
so there is.
Okay.
Yeah. So the money is flowing into the town through these sightings.
Wow. Okay.
But dozens of men, armed to the teeth,
here we go,
plunge into the thick, treacherous woods of Marzolf Hill.
I'm seeing a 6-pack of beer and they're off.
Well, this is very much the thing. There's so much bravado going along. So they're turning up, going into the local hostelries to get the gossip and the beer.
Yeah.
And then disappearing into the dark woods. And, of course, there is there's no way of keeping this particularly safe, because there are literally dozens of men. They've got high-caliber pistols, they've got rifles, they've got shotguns, and they're determined to bag themselves a monster. They want the trophy, they want the fame, and there's going to be plenty of fame, because waiting back in the town are all the reporters.
I bet the police chief was freaking out. He's probably got about 5 men, do you know what I mean, to keep an eye on all this, isn't he?
Shelby watches the town spiral out of control.
Right.
He says the monster was a problem, yes, but a forest full of heavily armed, trigger-happy vigilantes who are half cut, wandering around in the dark, shooting at every shadow, every rustling bush.
Oh, God.
This is a catastrophe waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And he's not shy of saying this either. He does actually say this to reporters. He gets he's not angry with them, but he's like, you are fueling something. This is not about people being attacked by a monster anymore. Someone's going to end up dead.
Again, reminding me of the Hammersmith Ghost as well.
Yes.
That story where, that I know it's a lot earlier in time, but that created that vigilante thing, and panic and bravado. I think is a really good description of it, Ben.
And mixed with alcohol.
Yeah.
But these hunters also didn't respect their property lines. They trampled crops, they broke down fences, they trespassed on private farmland. And gunshots were ringing out in the woods all hours of the day and night.
God.
The residents sitting in their living rooms didn't know if the hunters had shot a monster, shot a deer, or shot each other. This was, this is what the gossip was now. On one occasion, 2 hunters from out of town saw a large dark shape moving in the thick brush on a local farm. They didn't wait to identify it. They opened fire. But when the smoke cleared and they pushed back through the undergrowth, they hadn't killed Momo. They'd shot and killed a local farmer's prize bull.
Wow, okay.
The farmer was, of course...
bull as well, because, you don't... It's not like you've got a spare.
The farmer was furious. He calls the police, but there's nothing Chief Ward could do. There were too many hunters in the woods. There was no way to prove who had fired the shots. Chief Ward had to act before somebody was killed.
Yeah.
He declared Marzolf Hill completely off limits. He set up a wooden police barricade across the main dirt roads leading up to the slope. He ordered his deputies to stop anyone trying to enter the woods with a firearm. But the town itself, it's still terrified. The barricades keep the hunters out, but they didn't prove that the woods were safe.
Yeah.
To do that, Ward knew he needed to conduct an official systematic search. He needed to find the creature, or he needed to definitively prove it wasn't there. So on the morning of July 19th, you're right, this is a bit like Jaws. It hadn't occurred to me until he said this. This story is like Jaws, you're right. Ward organises a massive posse. He assembled 20 men, and this wasn't a group of amateurs and, amateur monster hunters. There was 8 armed police officers.
Hold on, you say they were professional monster hunters? I really didn't know that existed.
Oh, do you know what? There must be. I'm sure there are some professional monster hunters. Perhaps even Brian Blessed would describe
I'm just seeing that scene where the sheriff's going, you know what, I've had enough of these amateur cryptid hunters. We need to bring in the professionals.
Hi, Chad Wallace here. No, so he assembles...
He's got a posse.
Is 8 armed police officer, a state conservation officer called Gus Artus, Edgar Harrison himself, and then some local volunteers. But
Again, great names.
yes, Gus Artus.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a alliteration. Yeah. They lined up at the base of Marzolf Hill, and they spread out. Standing about 30 feet apart from one another, they create a human dragnet, and they walk up into the woods. They combed the steep terrain for 3 hours, and this is quite grueling. It's a really steep hill, really steep. The undergrowth is dense, thorns and briars. The humidity is suffocating, and it's full of caves as well. They have to go into every one.
That'd be
and there's worries
scary.
about bears, of course.
Yep.
They check the abandoned shacks. They look for tracks in the soft dirt. They look for the hair caught on branches. They look for the remains of dead dogs. They pushed through the entire designated area. They found nothing, not a single piece of physical evidence. Right. When they emerged from the woods, all sweaty and exhausted, the police declared the search complete. They told the town there was no monster. They suggested it was probably just a black bear passing through the area. Passing through. Hello. Lovely steak you do in the restaurant.
Yeah.
But the conclusion that the police really try and pass off is that it was a sick joke played by a prankster in a gorilla suit.
Right.
That is your swamp gas right there.
And, sorry, back to Jaws, that's reminded me of the scene, you know, when the 2 boys kind of make their own little shark fin. And they wear it on their back. Do you remember? And all the boats go crazy and, it was just a joke. It was just a joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, as you can imagine, the locals...
They weren't buying it.
No. A bear doesn't walk on its 2 hind legs down the middle of a river road. A bear doesn't smell like rotting garbage and mould. A prankster in a gorilla suit wouldn't be stupid enough to wander around Marzolf Hill when it was swarming with men carrying loaded shotguns. The locals knew something was out there, and they were right not to buy the police explanation because Momo wasn't finished. It just changed locations. You see, on the afternoon of August the 4th, 4 young boys had gone fishing. 2 of those boys were Edgar Harrison's older sons, 13-year-old Lewis and 10-year-old Fred. They were fishing on the Salt River just north of the town. It was quiet afternoon, water's very calm. As they sat on the bank watching their lines, one of the older boys noticed a dark object in the water moving against the current. At first they thought it was a log, but it was moving deliberately, swimming upstream. As it got closer, they saw it was a massive animal. The head was larger than a human's, the shoulders stuck out of the water, thick with warm, wet hair. And by the way, shoulders, it was swimming steadily, powerful, right towards their side of the river. The boys didn't wait to see it come ashore. They dropped the fishing lines, turned and ran as fast as they could back to town.
Good move. I tell you what, again, back to Jaws, that's reminding me of the scene where they go get the kids to play in the other side. You know, there's that little pool bit that...
Yeah.
It reminds me of that. You'll be fine there because that's not where the beast comes in. Wow, okay.
Well, mate, no doubt he would have read some of these small town monster
Yeah.
story.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I wonder if it did. So when was this again? This happened?
This is 1972.
Yeah, so that's pre-Jaws. Although probably not pre the book, though. But I don't know if the book... Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, so they're there. They've seen this thing coming at them. That description sounds less humanoid, doesn't it? More animal from them.
Shoulders, though.
Yeah, true.
It's definitely got two arms. He's like doing the breaststroke towards them. So once again, the police turn up. And, of course, they've got more of a difficult job sweeping the river.
How far... is this quite close to the original location? Are we talking? I mean,
yeah.
It's not like
these
50
small
miles
boys.
away. Yeah.
No, it's the original dad's two small boys.
Yeah,
it's a walking distance.
Right.
Yeah. But the police say, look, we've had this big panic. Sightings are subjective. Shadows play tricks on the eyes. A dog can look like a wolf. A standing bear can look like a monster. I'm not sure the boys saw anything. Right. But then there's a bit of a breakthrough because they find a track in the mud. An impression left by weight and anatomy is much, much harder to dispute. Yeah. In early August, as the panic in Louisiana was its absolute peak, a farmer named Freddie Robbins was walking on his property. His farm was located about 8 miles south of the town, away from Marzolf Hill, in an area that had, up until that point, been quiet. Pressed into the soft soil of his farm, he found the footprints, and they're massive.
Right.
They weren't the standard Bigfoot-like tracks that you see in plaster casts from the Pacific Northwest. These were different. They were oval-shaped, and they had 3 toes. Wow. 3 long, thin, almost reptilian or avian toes.
Right, I was thinking of birds. Yeah, okay.
A few days later, on August the 3rd, similar tracks appeared in the home of Mr. and Mrs. Bill Sudduth, who lived northwest of town of Doherty Pike Road. Just as the sun was coming up, Mrs. Sudduth noticed her dogs were acting nervously. They were pacing and whining and looking around the yard. A few moments later, she heard a high-pitched wailing howl originating from somewhere very close to the house. Alarmed, Mr. Sudduth grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside. He scanned the yard, but he didn't see the creature, and the howling stopped. But as he looked around the exterior of his house, he found something in the soft, muddy soil of the garden. It had rained heavily the night before, making the ground perfect for holding impressions. Pressed clearly into the mud were 4 massive 3-toed tracks. Sudduth immediately called his friend, Clyde Penrod. Another good name.
Yeah.
Penrod had seen the tracks at the Robbins farm a few days earlier, and Sudduth knew he would want to see these. Penrod drove over, bringing plaster casting material with him, and when he examined the tracks, he was completely baffled, not just by the shape of them, but by the logistics of where they were. The tracks were right in the middle of the garden. It was 20 to 25 feet from the tracks to anywhere else, Penrod told a reporter. There was a huge gap of soft mud all around the garden, but there were no prints leading to it, and no prints leading out. It was exactly 4 steps, isolated in the centre of this soft earth. It was as if the creature had simply dropped from the sky, taken 4 heavy steps, and vanished back into thin air. Even if it was a hoaxer, they would have had to have walked through the mud to get to the garden, leaving a trail, and there was no trail.
Weird.
Penrod carefully poured his plaster into the deepest, clearest track and made a cast. That cast remains one of the strangest pieces of physical evidence of the entire Momo case, because a 3-toed bipedal creature doesn't fit the standard biological model for Bigfoot, or indeed any of our assumptions and findings about Bigfoot. Right. In cryptozoology, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, obviously it's believed to be either an undiscovered primate, or we've discussed extensively on here how it could be something that it goes between dimensions or whatever. Yeah. But if you go for a true nuts and bolts, blood and flesh kind of explanation, you might think it was perhaps a surviving population of Gigantopithecus, massive ape from the fossil record, And if you do believe that, primates like humans have 5 toes, and all of our evidence about Bigfoot says they've got 5 toes.
So, if you went down that route, kind of missed species, you're going into kind of dinosaur territory.
Well, it's like you read my notes. Right. 3 toes belong to reptiles, so birds, dinosaurs. And pretty much anything in that vein of things. But yes, this is what you would expect to see from a dinosaur foot.
But then you've got the humanoid element description, which doesn't really fit that, does it?
Yes.
Right.
But this detail, the 3 toes, combined with the impossible placement of the tracks, caught the attention of the researchers who come from a very different field. The men who study UFOs and high strangeness. Hayden Hughes, the director of the International UFO Bureau, drove up from Oklahoma City to investigate, and he brought his colleague Daniel Garcia. They interviewed witnesses, they explored Marzolf Hill, they looked at the track evidence, and then they held a press conference. Hughes stood in front of local reporters and suggested that Momo wasn't a biological animal at all. He suggested it was extraterrestrial, or at least connected to a phenomena that we were not familiar with on Earth. He pointed to strange balls of lights that several witnesses had reported seeing hovering over Marzolf Hill in the on the night of the first sightings. Lights that descended into the trees just before the roaring began. He pointed to the impossible 3-toed tracks that seemed to begin and end in the middle of nowhere, as if the creature had been beamed down and beamed back up.
Bingo!
Yes. For the practical, grounded townsfolk of Louisiana, though, this was a step too far.
Right.
They were willing to accept a monster in the woods. The monster is an animal. You can hunt an animal. You can shoot an animal.
Yeah.
They were not willing to accept an alien from a spaceship.
Apart from the orbs, had there been any strange lights in the sky, saucer size?
No, not really.
Like
no. So the evidence that he's talking about was relayed subsequently and really exclusively to these UFO investigators. The police were not aware of these orbs, and it certainly wasn't part of the chatter of the town, and there certainly hadn't been any flying objects sort of noted, as you sometimes get in the Bigfoot encounters. There wasn't any of that. And so really the only thing that drew in the UFO people was this 3-toed thing, and jumping so quickly to holding a press conference. What this really is, I think, is just trying to grab the attention candle from other people. And I said I didn't want to do something, I wanted to do something this week that wasn't about aliens. This really isn't about aliens. This is a monster flap that UFO researchers kind of push their way into. In this case, I think they pushed their way into. And I think it was really unfair, because what it did is it just upset all the eyewitnesses who were like, hang on, I think you're kind of misrepresenting this. And then to try to assign a place of origin for this peculiar creature, it sort of takes credibility away from the analysis, I think.
Did you? This is an aside. There was a story on Have I Got News For You last night about a Argentinian radio station. Did you see this?
No.
They were doing their show. It's not a paranormal show, but they were doing a segment on UFOs and UAPs. So they asked the researcher to get them a ufologist for the show. And this person turned up, and they basically introduced them as a ufologist.
Oh,
they said, "No, I'm a urologist."
Oh. That is extraordinary. That is fantastic. Taking the piss.
Yeah, literally.
Oh, my word.
Can you imagine? Oh, someone got fired that day, didn't they?
That is absolutely genius.
I'm not a ufologist, I'm a urologist.
Well, that was on the same programme. They pointed out that there was a celebration of the 100th birthday of David Attenborough at some kind of very well-established local nature reserve. But the person writing the copy had said that it was ideal for amateur naturists rather than naturalists.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I love that.
Okay, so you've got these. Yeah, the ufologists have arrived. They are ufologists.
Yeah,
they are slightly taking the piss, but they straight away they're not. They're exaggerating things like orbs. Going, well, it's UFOs. Let's do a press conference.
So they basically, the town is kind of like,
yeah, right.
It's a very Simpsons moment. They finish talking, the town turn around and go, yeah, it's not that.
I was thinking a little bit while we were talking about this. There's very Mount Pleasance, isn't there? There's very Mothman Prophecies a bit to this story of just if there was more general weirdness,
Yeah,
it's reminded me of the Mothman.
Yes, I agree, and that is one of the things that this doesn't really have. It doesn't really have general weirdness. It has a number of Scooby-Doo-ish sightings, but it doesn't
the noises,
have.
I guess.
Yeah, the noises, but it doesn't have, phones ringing in the middle of the night or a bridge collapse or anything like that. But I tell you what it does have, and we keep mentioning it, is this, the smell.
Yeah.
So in the lore of the paranormal, and we've spoken about it again in a previous episode, this smell of rotting meat or sulfur.
Yeah.
Particularly sulfur is often associated with demonic entities. Yeah. And I suppose with the idea that entities that cross from places they shouldn't cross from bring the scent of this with them.
And also the footprints in the middle of the field, that lends itself to an interdimensional, apparition type affair, doesn't it?
Yeah. And also very, very similar to the devil's footprints in the snow incident.
Yeah.
But the odour, the other thing about the odour is that people hadn't readily considered when they started talking about this, is that it can be used for defence. So skunks use it. Yeah. Gorillas, funnily enough, I didn't realise this, they can emit basically a scent weapon.
Right.
It's derived, it's like a pungent, sweet sweat that can be expelled at considerable distance. I didn't know that.
Well, I didn't know that.
And when you talked about whether this thing could be a primate, it is noted that if Momo was a biological primate under extreme stress from perhaps being hunted because it had escaped from somewhere, then that odour actually does make some sense.
Right.
But the difference with Momo is the sheer intensity of the stench, because it moves independently of the creature. Now, what I mean by that is, on the night of July 20th, in the middle of the panic, Richard Crowe arrives in Louisiana. He's a reporter for the Irish Times in Chicago, and he also wrote for Fate magazine, a publication dedicated to the paranormal. He meets up with Edgar Harrison, and on that night, the two of them go up Marzolf Hill. It's pitch black, and of course they use flashlights to navigate the bush. After pushing through the trees for a while, they find an abandoned, dilapidated shack half swallowed by the woods. As they move closer, examining a pile of debris in the corner of the structure, Harrison's dog, which has been tagging along confidently, suddenly stops, whines, tucks its tail and bolts into the darkness, running back towards the house. Instantly, Crowe and Harrison are hit by a wall of odour, and he describes it as a wall. Crowe later wrote that it was so overwhelming and it resembled rotting flesh and foul, stagnant water. He said it was like walking into a physical barrier, and it was so, I suppose, surprising that they both drew their weapons. They readied their camera flashes and they stood back to back in the dark. Can you imagine that? It's like a buddy movie
really
from the
is.
80s.
Yeah.
But the smell, they said, burnt their nose, and they were waiting for this beast to come out of the trees.
Yeah.
Down in the valley below, they could hear the neighbourhood dogs going absolutely frantic. The men stood there, tense, barely breathing, waiting for the attack. And then 5 minutes later, the smell vanishes. It didn't fade gradually on the breeze, though, they said. It was like a light being flipped. Right. 1 second it was suffocating. The next second the air was just the smell of damp earth and pine needles. The dogs in the valley stopped barking and the woods went quiet. Whatever had passed them in the dark, close enough to choke them with its scent, close enough to send the dogs running through for its life, they never saw a single hair. They never heard a footstep. Right. They didn't hear like the bushes snapping or crackling. And the other thing that I should point out, because I was waiting for this in the story, because you get this in the missing, the missing cases from David Paulides and others. Sometimes you get mimic voices, or the help me's and stuff like that. None of that.
None of that.
So,
apart from the cowardly dog, I bet when he met up, cheers. Thanks, mate. You were off. You're supposed to defend us. Yeah.
So this reporter, who's with Harrison, they walk off Marzolf Hill that night with nothing to show for it, no photographs or anything like that.
There's something about that, that's we've talked about it a lot recently. It's almost like that's almost trickster-esque, isn't it?
Yes.
Freak you out, get you standing back to back, no sighting, no noise, the smell, it kind of then goes suddenly. There's something trickstery about it. Because, you can go, everybody's going to go, you just freaked yourself out, or it was a skunk.
Of course, absolutely. And it makes the original eyewitness look either unreliable or, worst case, stupid.
Yeah.
But as they walk off that hill, it sort of symbolises almost the end of this flat, because by late August, the sightings began to taper off. There were other sightings, but none of them were as dramatic as the ones I was saying there. People say, I saw it running across the road 100 metres away from me when I was driving, things like that.
Yeah, and you're going to get those reports, aren't you, with the mass hysteria that's going on. People will see a bear and say it was the monster, you know what I mean? Because they don't know what they're looking at.
That's right. And I think the other interesting thing about this is it's as August goes into September, there's a change of the seasons. The armed posses get bored. They pack up their shotguns. They go home. The out-of-town journalists run out of headlines. They pack up. Chief Ward finally gets to take down his wooden roadblocks and let the exhausted deputies get some sleep, because they've been on like 24-hour watch, because he would have blamed them if someone had got killed.
Yeah.
The immediate terror faded, and what they did was, rather than let this thing fade, it sort of turned into something that the town could capitalise on.
Okay. So it went a bit Roswell, did it?
The local diners started selling monster burgers.
Right, of course.
Retail stores run Momo-sized bargains.
Hopefully the burgers didn't smell like the beast.
No, exactly. They printed Momo shirts. So today, more than 50 years on,
right,
the town is still known as the home of the Missouri Monster.
The Momo.
They wear it as a badge of honour, sometimes humour. And I guess the author of some of the material I was reading to get this said lingering unease. But there's kind of we're left with 4 possible explanations for this.
Okay.
I'll summarise them for you here.
Okay.
So number 1, it could be a hoax. So quite elaborate, dangerously
risky.
Elaborate.
I get it could be a hoax at the start, but okay.
But it would need somebody in an incredibly realistic, I say realistic, you go realistic to what, but something realistic to make you not look like a human, custom-made suit, who somehow managed to make 3-toed tracks in isolated mud, project ungodly deafening roars with a sound of metallicism built into it, mimic the smell of rotting flesh.
What I was going to say is it's got a bad flatulence problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Dodge armed hunters for 2 months and basically sink back into their normal life. Is it possible? Barely. Is it likely? No, it requires too much effort and too much risk. Probably too much technical skill for a local prank, but it's still possible. But
Yeah.
Option 2 is, I don't think it's where I land, but it's a lot more, I suppose, based in reality. So number 2 is a misidentified animal, specifically a feral black bear suffering from severe mange. Now, severe mange is something that we've heard as explanation for all kinds of things, including the chupacabra.
Yeah.
But it's pointed out that it could be walking on its hind legs due to an injury to its front paws.
Right.
This is the most common skeptical explanation.
Yeah.
It would explain the terrible smell because of the disease and infection the animal's got, the guttural growls, and the sheer size.
And, bears can stand on 2 legs, so, they would be about the right size, wouldn't it? As well?
Yes. but it doesn't explain the pumpkin-shaped head with no visible face.
Yeah.
It does not explain the three-toed tracks.
Yeah.
It does not explain the lack of physical evidence.
Yeah.
And it does not explain why it's carrying a dead dog. Bears do not carry dead dogs around with them. They might attack them, but they don't carry them under their arm.
Yeah. I'm saving that one for later.
Option 3, an undiscovered primate. So a local variation of the Sasquatch species, perhaps pushed out of the normal deep forest habitat by logging or flooding, and forced to scavenge from the age of human civilization. This is a cryptozoological answer. It accepts the creature as a flesh and blood animal, but just something we haven't catalogued yet. Now that is... I have problems with that too.
I mean, it's the problem. We've talked about it before, but it's like there's got to be more than one because it would die out. Right?
Yeah.
So you're talking. There's got to be a few of these things, a posse of them. I don't know what you would call a group of Bigfoot's feet.
No,
a feet of Bigfoots. And
a soul.
Yeah, and you would, they would die at places. People would find the bones. People would, you know what I mean? I can't believe that they're out there and nobody has ever found them. I just find that really hard to believe.
No, I agree.
I mean, it makes a good kind of, discovery documentary, but yeah, really.
Yeah, of course. And that sort of brings us to option 4, which is, unfortunately, there's something else entirely category. And,
But you alluded to something else earlier, and I know it doesn't explain the footprints, but, I can imagine an escaped animal from a zoo type scenario or someone's private collection, somebody who had a chimpanzee or... even an orangutan or a gorilla, unlikely, but something like a chimpanzee could be mistaken for that, but it doesn't explain the footprints, I guess.
It wouldn't explain the sheer size of this thing either. And chimpanzees don't walk on 2 legs. I think we're probably back to a trans-dimensional explanation.
Sorry, can I just pick you up on that last point? This is a funny story. I remember I worked with somebody who had quite a show-busy life and lived in LA. And they said they lived in flats and somebody in their flat had a chimpanzee as a pet.
Oh.
And I know that's, there's lots of reasons why you shouldn't do that. But she told me one day she pressed the button for the lift and the lift opened and the chimpanzee came out of the lift on roller skates.
No.
It was the most surreal thing she'd ever seen.
Oh, but that's kind of...
A roller skating chimpanzee?
I suppose that's cute. I feel sorry for them, though.
Yeah.
It's not right, is it?
Not really.
I'm sure it's having fun, but it'd probably be having more fun with its own kind in the wild.
Okay, so the escaped zoo primates, unlikely. Well, there's flaws with that in terms of the story.
You'd find evidence. So I do find the interdimensional thing probably the most compelling because, and again, you have to say thing, which is like, I've no idea, but it exhibits quite a lot of the same properties as Bigfoot, as in, like, there is no physical evidence left. The idea that it can put footprints in the middle of somewhere and they can be just sort of isolated, I think that's weird, and we have seen that with Bigfoot cases. There is some bare evidence that there was orbs and stuff seen, but I don't think this is an extraterrestrial thing. I really don't.
It's got to be. Well, the footprints thing is making you think interdimensional and the kind of disappearing. I was also thinking of what people were seeing and smelling could be different to what created those three-pronged footprints, couldn't it? Could be a pet. We talked about aliens having pets and all kinds of stuff before. Yeah,
so it's interesting what you say there, because what I was going to sort of say was that I think the transdimensional thing, I think, is possible, and then there are some very out there ideas, like it's a government experiment gone wrong, but we often hear that about chupacabras as well.
Yeah, big man.
I think there is a very... there's a very grounded potential explanation, which is, it's much harder to fit around. But then this, of all the places in all the world, some of these things have got to come together. Is it possible that there is an underground cavern full of rotting vegetation that people just don't know about, because there's a lot of abandoned like dig holes and mines and stuff like that.
Right.
Is it possible that happened? Is it possible a bear died down there and it is just a really stinky carcass, and when people say, it hit me, the smell hit me and then it dissipated? Sure, but this is a humid kind of environment. If there's a little bit of wind, it's going to lift that entire smell and move it, I would imagine. I mean, like, it's the same as I can walk in through my front door and the smell of cooking onions can hit you, but you open the back door, 10 minutes later the smell of cooking onions is gone. I do think there is, I think that could be over explained.
And then if you throw in, the mass hysteria that develops, then the other things become, so the footprints on the grass could have been a buzzard. You know what I mean?
Of course they could.
And then it gets kind of, but the hysteria has taken hold, and everybody's going, I saw that. Like the Hammersmith ghost. Somebody shot at a man in a white apron because he thought he was a ghost.
Yeah, and I was going to say there's something really interesting to this. So I was recently, so I don't want to particularly cover it because the BBC show Uncanny have covered it, and they did an okay job of covering Spring Heel Jack, and Spring Heel Jack has been covered film and audio and stuff, but I found a very interesting account, and this is very relevant. Found an account of somebody who said that they did know their great-grandmother, and this is when, because they were born in, let's say the 50s, something like that.
Right.
And their great-grandmother had been witness to a Spring Heel Jack incident.
Oh, really?
And you're probably familiar with the one where they scream, he's on the roof.
Yeah.
And she said to her great-grandson, well, what actually happened was when we were there was a local man who we knew wasn't fully of mind and sound. We knew who he was. And he had found his way up onto our neighbour's roof, and he was jumping up and down and throwing slates down.
Okay.
And this turned into, oh my God, he's on the roof. And so she said, I did not see Spring Heel Jack on the roof. I saw one of the local people who was a bit mad gone up there, and the police had to go and escort him down and make sure he was safe. But it wasn't Spring Heel Jack. But today we know that as Spring Heel Jack.
Yeah.
Now, I think probably the other thing about this case is that the first witness is a 15-year-old girl. Now, 15-year-old girls can be very reliable witnesses, but it's possible that what she saw was just something that wasn't in her purview. It wasn't something she'd experienced before. So could it possibly have been a hunter who had accidentally injured their dog and they were in a right state coming down from the hill?
They'd fallen in the mud.
Exactly. And I think there were all those explanations.
And then it's back to that mass hysteria. That becomes the starting point where everything pans out from, right?
That's right. That's right. But nevertheless, it makes a great story. I mean, Ellis Minor went to his grave insisting that he had seen what he saw. Yeah. Edgar Harrison's children are, of course, adults now, and they swear blind that what they saw that afternoon is what they're there. The police logs are still there. They're all absolutely as they were. And, that incident in 1972 is a fact of history. It's just which part of history it actually is, whether it was a great flap or whether there was something that people actually saw. But I really love that case because it's so it's set up for a movie, isn't it?
I was just the only because up to a point, you'd only have to add a bit of dramatization to it without changing the story. What it doesn't have is an ending.
It doesn't have an ending, and this is the thing that you get with so many of these cases is you get this open-ended flap.
Yeah.
and then nothing satisfactory. And then, like I say there, I think you get a load of people trying to claim the glory for it being their own particular predilection that is coming through. On the extra scoop, I do actually have a British monster story which has something of an ending to it, even if the ending is a little prosaic.
Right.
But I do like these. I do like these small stories. By the way, I found this morning as I was just getting all my kit ready to come over. The first Nessie sighting of 2026 is in.
Come on in.
And it's a little video.
Transdimensional beast.
How does it look like? I suppose it looks a bit Nessie-ish.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not entirely buying it. Does it look like a plesiosaur? A little bit like a plesiosaur. More like a plesiosaur than a plank of wood. I don't know. But you see, I find this very similar to Nessie because the amount of projects that have been on that lock and have found absolutely nothing apart from...
But also the parallels with this story of it, the place has become famous for that. It's become a tourist destination because of that. I mean, it's a lovely lock, but you know what I mean? It wouldn't be the status it is.
No, certainly not. And... I think you get that with Champ in the US, and everywhere does have its own little monster story. And I sort of I wonder whether we need these monster stories to help represent what our communities are. In this case, they rallied around and became stronger for it, and then decided that they would turn it into something humorous and make a Momo burger. I wonder whether it's something deeply ingrained in us that this is something that we go with, because pretty much every ancient civilization, whether they call them gods or whatever it is, they do have their stories about something that
along those lines.
That came to visit, either helped them or had to be fought off or whatever. It's very fascinating.
It's stuff folklore. It's an amazing story, and like you said, I can see the movie bits of it, and just the fact that we were thinking of movie references all the way through it kind of proves that. On the spring-heeled Jack front, if you've not heard it, we did do an episode a few years ago on spring-heeled Jack, so if you want to hear more about that fantastic story, go and check that out in... wherever you get your pods, do a search for that. I think it's just called Spring Hill Jack or something like that.
I think it is, yeah.
Next week, there's some parallels, again, from what you've talked about. Next week, I am going to cover a well-known story, which I guess, if it is how it plays out, or is said to have played out, is probably the greatest paranormal encounter in history, viewed by somewhere between 70 and 90,000 people.
What?
Yeah. I'll leave you with that teaser.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll see you all over at patreon.com/TQM pod.
Yep.
And thank you for everyone who's contributing over there. I've got permission to tell that story. I'm not going to do it this week because I need to take a beat and digest it.
Oh, is this one of the Patreons?
Yeah.
One of our Patreons has sent
Yeah,
us, so
thank you. Thank you, Power.
I did read it. It'll be really good to share it. We won't do it this week. Next week, maybe?
Yeah, I'll do it next week. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. If you're in the UK, stay safe in the sun. If you're not in the UK, still stay safe in the sun, but you might be in the snow, so stay safe in that too.
Cool. All right. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Are you the quantum mechanics?